If you're a fan of our KBO show with Tokyo Brandon and Adam Trigger, we have a special offer to get you any of their KBO or Japanese baseball releases for free. For a limited time, you can lock in MLB through the World Series for Tokyo Brandon or Adam Trigger for the super early bird price of $6.99 each, and we will include any KBO or Japanese baseball releases through the championships, normally priced at an additional $4.99 per sport, absolutely free. To purchase all of these sports during this time frame, it would cost you over $1,800. But by locking yourself in early, we are dropping the cost all the way down to $6.99.
Welcome on into the KBO, the maiden voyage. It's here, and we are excited. I'm your host, Dan Alexander, and each and every week, we're going to give you a little two-pack Mondays and Thursdays here of some Asian baseball action. And every episode, I'll be joined by two of the best, I'll even drop the quantifier, the best Asian baseball handicappers, as we got Adam Trigger and Tokyo Brandon live here streaming on WagerTalk TV. We're pumped up. It's opening weekend for the KBO. Plenty of actionable info coming your way today on the show. So we'll welcome in the guys, Adam Trigger, Tokyo Brandon. Adam, we'll start with you. I know you're excited, man. How you doing, and what do you got this weekend for your WagerTalk clients?
Yeah, it's been a long weekend, it's been a long winter, so I'm just happy baseball's back. This weekend, I have an NIT best bet up right now, which goes in college hoop tonight. We have specials for the KBO season. Both Tokyo Brandon and I have those up. You can get my MLB season and get KBO thrown in for free. That's up at a huge discount right now. And then Friday, I guess it's, for me on the East Coast here, it's going to be late night Friday night. Technically Saturday, 1 a.m. Eastern is when KBO gets started. So can't wait for that. We got games all weekend. And then the MLB comes in next week. It's a great time to be a sports fan.
Absolutely it is, and we're excited to kick off the KBO show. Tokyo Brandon's been making his rounds all over WagerTalk TV. He was on Puck Time this week. He was on WagerTalk today, and now he has found his home on the KBO show. Tokyo Brandon, how we doing, man? And what do you have up for your clients this weekend?
Doing great, guys. Finally, baseball's here. Actually, Japanese baseball's on day 6 of their season, and I have 2 4% plays tonight in Japanese baseball. About a half hour before the show on Pinnacle, the KBO odds came out just for money lines, only on Pinnacle, so some of you in the U.S. might not be able to get that. But I did put a play out for the KT game in that one, and so that's what I got out tonight, along with my special deal with Adam that we're going to do for this season. MLB, KBO, Japanese baseball, all mixed in for one special price. Let's go get it.
See, so many people wanting to be a part. The phone is ringing off the hook for Tokyo Brandon there. So how it's going to work here today, guys, and really as we move forward here in the KBO show season, we're going to start off by previewing our marquee matchup for the week. We're going to get into a little total talk where the guys maybe talk a little team total, how they're maybe attacking totals in the KBO or any Asian baseball that we have. We'll even let the guys break down a series preview, kind of an overview of maybe what they're looking at midweek, what they're looking at in this case over the weekend, and then what everybody loves, the free actionable info. We'll have a best bet from both of the guys to end the show. So that's how we're going to do it. So nothing left to do it but to get into it. So let's start, guys, with our feature game this week. It's the defending KBO Series champion KT Wiz taking on the Samsung Lions. And you see there from the odds, a true pick'em, and also could be a rogue total. We were talking in our pre-show meeting. We're looking at 8.5. Both guys thinking that might be looking a little bit high. Tokyo Brandon, we'll start with you as the KT Wiz taking on the Lions. How are you breaking down this matchup to start off the KBO season?
Yeah, what a good matchup. We've got the defending Korean champs in KT Wiz taking on the Samsung Lions, the team that they beat in a one playoff series to take first place in the regular season. We've got Cuevas going up against Buchanan, two import pitchers, two foreign pitchers, two really good pitchers. So the way I break this down, there are going to be some changes from last season for both of these teams. KT has some injuries in their lineup, and Samsung is in the preseason so far. They're not looking quite as the power team as they were last year, although no major personnel changes. The way I break games down, generally speaking, is mainly three categories: starting pitching, bullpen, and lineups. And I have both of these pitchers ranked really high for starting pitching, slightly higher. They have a slight advantage than KT in that respect for this first game. Bullpen and lineup both favor KT in my opinion. So KT, I give them a slight advantage, plus the fact that they are the defending champions and playing at home. That's how I see this breaking down. This is actually going to be my best bet, so I'll talk a little more about it at the end of the show.
Well, if you needed any more reason to stick around here on the KBO show, best bet on this game coming up later in the show from Tokyo Brandon. You can find him on WagerTalk.com, WT.buzz/TB. Adam, as you look at this matchup, a true pick'em in the sense of the word, how do you break it down? Similar kind of view that you're taking with Tokyo Brandon?
Yeah, well, just in general, I think that's a good sort of basic starting point to break a game down. Starting pitching, lineup, bullpen, and then you start to sort of phase in and out some of the intangibles. So in this case, I don't know if I agree with KT having the better lineup here per se. Baekho Kang is going to be out for KT probably 3 to 4 months at this point. That is a massive blow to a KT Wiz lineup that really was not great at all toward the end of the season last year. KT, I will say this, they didn't get any production out of their import spot last year, which is their sort of former major leaguer position player that comes over to play this year. They have Henry Ramos, former Arizona Diamondback. So but it'll be yet to be seen, whether he produces or not. Samsung, I think Jose Perella, who's former Yankee and Padre, now in the KBO with Samsung, he's one of the best hitters in the league, and he's got J-Il-O, who's one of the best domestic hitters in the league, protecting him in that lineup. So, like 1 through 5 in the Samsung lineup, I would argue is better than what KT has, but their lineup gets weak toward the bottom. So, pitching-wise, I give William Cuevas for KT a slight edge. I think the strike zone, so remember, the strike zone is going to be a little bit bigger in the KBO this year. I think the increased strike zone really benefits Cuevas here, maybe as much as any pitcher in the league. You go back to his last 5 starts of last year. In 3 of those starts, 12 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts, 12 strikeouts. He's one of the most prolific strikeout guys in the league. The thing that would get him in trouble is walks, but we have to imagine with an increased zone, that might cut down on his walks this year. I'd actually look toward the under here. I'd be shocked if we get that 8.5. If we do, I would say take it right away. My guess is when this actually comes out on most books, we're going to see 8s and 7.5s here for the total. But I think ultimately the totals are going to be high. We'll talk about that in the next segment a little bit on a broader scale. I would look toward the under. From a matchup perspective, Buchanan's pretty solid. Cuevas is pretty solid. I think there's pros and cons for both teams. So maybe a slight lean toward KT just because I have Cuevas rated slightly higher. But if I had to bet this game, I think I'd be looking at under 8.5 runs.
Yeah, and also with the timing that we have, depending on when you get to this episode, go to your book where you're shopping for these KBO numbers, and if you can get that high total, something that Adam's already looking at, regardless of where that one comes in at, 8.5, if you can get it, might be worth grabbing right away. And that perfectly segues into our next segment. We're going to get into a little total talk, and we're going to go right on back to Adam Trigger here, kind of alluded to it a little bit there, of just how he's kind of attacking totals early on in this year and what he's kind of seeing to start the preseason here in KBO play, maybe something that he's been tracking and getting ready for. So as far as totals, as opening weekend is here, Adam, how are you kind of tackling them?
So without a doubt, I'm going to be looking to try to bet unders if I'm going to bet a total. And the tricky part about this is KBO bullpens are not great, so you always have to, kind of the best bullpens in the KBO are going to have a team ERA in the threes usually. So you have to sort of factor that in because your 8.5 under can get blown up real quick in the last couple innings if you catch a bullpen that doesn't have their top guys. So I do not advise blindly betting unders, but with that being said, it looks like unders hit at about a 70% clip in the preseason. Had there been like lines, it was tough to find lines on all the preseason games. But that's a pretty big sample. It was a sample of over 50 games. So I think you've got to look at the unders. Now, with that being said, what we've seen in past years is like a game like KT and Samsung, when you have two of the big name import guys, they tend to throw up a pretty low total regardless. So you might not find the value in those sort of matchups that have your frontline starters, but there's some really good pitchers in this league that don't get quite the hype as a William Cuevas or David Buchanan, and that might be where the value is. So without a doubt, I'm going to be looking at betting unders in the first couple weeks of the season until the books adjust. Now, everything is, it's all reactionary to what the books are going to do. If the books get wind of this and start hanging extremely low totals, you might have to maybe maneuver out of that. But my guess is I don't think the books are going to be sharp to this yet. I think we're going to see totals like last year. And in the case of, like, let's just use Samsung and KT as an example. You get an under 8 there with those two starters. The fact that you'll have Seungwon Oh will be, the best reliever for Samsung. All these guys, their best relievers are going to be available because it's 2 games and an off day Monday. So you're going to see bullpens go deep this weekend. They know they got their off day coming up. They've got starters that are going to pitch deep. There's 10 games this weekend. I wouldn't be that surprised if more than half of them went under. I'll just kind of leave a broad blanket statement. I bet we see five or more unders in the 10 games this weekend.
Trig throwing down the under gauntlet there, saying might be something worth tracking here early on in the KBO. Some great info there. Not just picks on games you're going to be getting here on the KBO show, also some macro kind of ways that you can maybe handicap and make some money betting the KBO early on and throughout the season here on the KBO show. Swing it on over to Tokyo Brandon, the guy who loves doing the deep dives, of course, as an Asian baseball expert, goes without saying. And as we're kicking off our total talk here on our first episode of the KBO show, Tokyo Brandon wants to dive in a little bit deeper on some of these team totals. What do you got for the guys, Tokyo Brandon?
Yeah, and to build off what Adam mentioned, the book is going to be biased towards certain teams or certain players. And as soon as the books see a foreign name there, a non-Korean name there, the totals are going to be slanted. So as cappers, we're not betting teams. We're not betting who's going to win the game. We're betting numbers. So we're trying to find value in the numbers. And that's how you succeed at doing this, is finding value. So we're trying to beat the books. I don't care if KT or Samsung wins. I don't care. What I care is I'm trying to find some value in there and beat the book and win my bet. So regarding team totals, I'm with Adam in the fact that I think there are going to be a lot more unders this season that we've seen that much better than we saw last year. Last year we saw a lot of 10.5s. I don't think we're going to see a lot of 10.5s this year. But I like to bet team totals. I don't know how available they are in the U.S., but I really think there's ways to take advantages of team totals because there are a few teams that were just putrid on offense last year. Kia for one, Kia especially. They just acquired Na-Sung Bum from NC, who's probably the best catcher in Korea. He's probably one of the best hitters in Korea, and he was actually considered to be going to major leagues, which he didn't. So now that's going to be a huge boost to Kia's lineup because they were the lowest scoring team for most of last year. So I think we're going to see a lot of low numbers for Kia, at least to start the season. So betting Kia team totals over is something I'm going to be looking at depending on what they come out as. Like a lot of KBO team totals come out at 4.5, but Kia's is usually 3.5. So I'm going to steal some 3.5s at the beginning of the season if I can find them for Kia.
A terrific point that Tokyo Brandon makes there of just betting numbers, not betting teams. I think, when the Prez talks a lot about betting KBO, betting NPB, he says, are you betting to watch the games or are you betting to make money? Some great points these guys are making. That's Tokyo Brandon. We also got Adam Trigger. I'm Dan Alexander. Also, a great offer going on right now for both of these guys. You can lock in their MLB plays through the World Series for either Tokyo Brandon or Adam Trigger. We're doing a super early bird pricing right now, $6.99 each. So you buy that, you get MLB, you also get KBO and Japanese baseball releases for free, all in one package there. So if you were buying all of them individually, it's about $4.99 per sport. You're spending over $1,800. This early bird special, you really do get the worm in that case. You can lock in all 3 leagues from Adam or Brandon for just $6.99 each. So guys, let's get into some series previews as people are excited about opening weekend here. Adam, we'll start with you, and you have maybe the best logo and mascot matchup of our first show here, as you want to break down the SSG Landers and that awesome UFO logo. I need to get some gear with that on there. Maybe Tokyo Brandon can hook us up. They're taking on the NC Dinos. As you're looking at this series, Adam, how are you looking to attack it opening weekend?
So this is the series I'm most interested in. Whether I'll get to the window with one of these kind of is to be determined. But I guess the reason I wanted to highlight the series is I really like both of these teams entering this season. So from just a viewing standpoint, this is the one I'm sort of most interested to watch. I think SSG is going to be your league champs this year. And I think that's a little bit of an outside the box thought. They didn't make the playoffs last year. They finished 6th. They missed it by a day. The prior year, they were the SK Wyverns before they were the Landers, and they finished next to last. So they were right down at the bottom of the league. I think there's going to be some value in this team, and I actually think just from a straight value standpoint, the fact that you're going to get a plus price on them in this game in the opener almost just makes me want to just take SSG on the side and say, you know what? I mean, if I can get like plus 125 in a matchup that I consider to be pretty even, that's pretty good. Starting pitching this weekend, it looks like we're going to have Wilmer Font, former Toronto Blue Jay, against Drew Rucinski, who former major leaguer, but at this point, he's pretty well known as one of the best pitchers in the KBO. This will be his 4th season. The guy has been pretty much consistently 3 ERA, 1.2 WHIP, and one of the best pitchers in the league for the last 3 years. So, the reason you're going to get that plus price on SSG in the opener is because you're going to have to beat Drew Rucinski. With that being said, I think the bigger strike zone, Wilmer Font is another guy that I think could really benefit from the increased zone. He's got really good stuff, and he's not going to walk as many guys. He's not going to miss close strikes this year. And I think SSG's got the better lineup. So right off the bat, I think the SSG is a team I'm looking to play on without a doubt. That being said, I do like NC, and I think we could see the Sunday matchup in this series. It's probably going to be former Yankee Ivan Nova against Wes Parsons, former Atlanta Brave. He was in the KBO last year, and Parsons is another guy that I think would really benefit from the increased strike zone. So I haven't really figured out how I'm gonna attack this from if I'm gonna make a best bet in this series at any point. But I will say that the Landers at plus money in the opener with Font on the mound is probably the right value. And maybe I'll come back, depending on if I'm getting a good price or not. Like Tokyo Brandon said, we don't care who wins these games. We're looking to bet numbers. Wes Parsons might be undervalued against Ivan Nova in the second game of the series, if in fact that's the matchup. Now, one final thought on SSG. They bring back Kwang Hyun Kim from the St. Louis Cardinals. He's back in Korea this year. He's on SSG. I don't think he's going to pitch this weekend, but some of these Korean managers get creative, and I wouldn't be all that shocked if maybe they use him in relief in the opener and come back and start him on Tuesday knowing he's got the off day. So, something to look for, but I think that's what we're going to see this weekend. I would lean toward SSG in the opener, and then if it is in fact Parsons against Nova in the second game, I'd probably look to go NC in that spot.
That's something that I realized when I checked out the preview you guys did before the season with Joe Ranieri, just kind of breaking down some of your betting philosophies for Asian baseball. It's well worth going back and checking out some great content there that can get you ready to go for the season and further on. But a lot of fans who are maybe new to the KBO probably don't realize how many familiar names you're going to be hearing popping up on some of these rosters. So pretty interesting there, as Adam breaking down the SSG Landers and the NC Dinos. Brandon has his series breakdown coming up here, and he's eyeing the Hanwha Eagles and the Doosan Bears. A little bit more traditional of mascots there, but Tokyo Brandon, how are you breaking down this series?
Every time I see Will Parsons' name listed as a starter, in my head it just pops up. I am the eye in the sky. The Alan Parsons project. I don't know. Anyways, maybe it's just me. So I got Hanwha and Doosan as the series, and the reason I have that is because Hanwha is a team that about 2 years ago they were the bottom dweller. They were the bottom feeder. They were awful. They were terrible. Last year they took a step up, and they used Kia's back to take that step up. And so they moved up a little bit, but Hanwha actually has a really good rotation for being an awful team. So if I was to, sometimes I like to equate teams to major league teams. They're kind of like the Miami Marlins to me, because they have really good pitching, but they can't hit. So I'm going to look at Hanwha in their first three starters. It's looking like it's going to be Kim Min-woo, Carpenter, and Kingham. And those are three really good starters. I don't know what order they're going to pitch in, but it looks like Kim Min-woo is going to be pitching tonight in the opener. So Kim Min-woo, if you look at his numbers last year against Doosan, he played him 3 times. He went against them, and the first time he got rocked. He got tagged pretty bad. It was a terrible start. But his second 2 starts, he gave up 0 runs to Doosan. So I'm going to look at in this series, especially in game 1. But Carpenter and Kingham are both really good starters as well. They just get very little run support from a Hanwha lineup that doesn't really hit much, but they hit enough. I'm going to be looking at Doosan unders here. Maybe not, if you can't get a team total, I'm going to be looking at a lot of game unders here, because I think anytime I see the bad team can hold the good team, the bad hitting team can hold the good hitting team down, even in Major League Baseball, the pattern to me seems like that's going to be an under. So I think this Hanwha Doosan series is going to produce a lot of unders. And another factor to factor into that is the fact that the books give Doosan a lot more credit than they deserve. Doosan's lineup is kind of an aging veteran type of lineup. And 2 years ago, they were swatting the heck out of the ball. And last year, I was seeing some team totals of like 5.5, 6, and 6s for Doosan. And that's pretty crazy because they don't hit like that anymore. So with this rotation for Hanwha and the diminishing skills of the Doosan lineup, I'm going to look for Doosan unders or game unders for this series, especially the first 3 games. Oh, I'm sorry, the first 2 games.
So some unders being eyed, and also maybe some market over respect here for the Doosan Bears. That's Tokyo Brandon. And yes, you heard correctly. He did make an Alan Parsons project reference there. Very timely stuff out of Tokyo Brandon right there. So it's funny. it's funny that he's mentioning Hanwha right there, because it's a little best bet action, and you got a little preview earlier, maybe what Tokyo Brandon's eyeing. So we'll start off with Adam Trigger. You can find him on WagerTalk.com, wt.buzz/AT. Trig, I hand the mic to you. What do you got for your best bet this week, my man?
All right, so I'm going to talk about Hanwha in general, and I'm just going to throw out there, I can almost guarantee you that at some point this weekend, I will have a bet on Hanwha. Now, it looks like Doosan's going to be close to minus 200 in their opening game. They have Robert Stock on the mound, who's an import pitcher. He was on the Boston Red Sox. I think he spent most of last year injured. I think the Mets trotted him out there at one point, and he got killed, then sent back down, and he was hurt. Now he's in Korea. Haven't really been impressed with him in the preseason. He has a reputation of a hard thrower, but he hasn't thrown particularly hard so far in the exhibition games. I don't put a ton of stock into that because I know they work on stuff in spring training and whatnot. But I think this Hanwha team is improved. So you're always going to get a bargain price on Hanwha. They finished in last place the last couple of years, and they finished in last place by a wide margin. I don't think they're going to finish last this year. I think that's the most sort of solid statement I can make is I don't think Hanwha finishes last, and I think you're going to have some value and you're going to find some value in backing them. They've gotten almost no production out of their import player. This year, import player Mike Tauchman, former New York Yankee, former Colorado Rocky. So if he does anything, that lineup's going to be better than it's been in the last couple of years. And let's just go to, Tokyo Brandon talked about Minwoo Kim, 23 years old. Nice prospect in this league, in my opinion. ERA of 4 last year and a 1.33 whip on a bad team that played very little defense for him. Still pitched pretty good. I would argue that he's the better starter right now until Robert Stock does something to show me otherwise. If I can get a good juice on the +1.5 for Hanwha here, that will 100% be a play for me. If not, I may sort of take a look and see. I'm still a little bit worried about their bullpen. They have some nice young arms, but that was a major concern toward the end of last year. But I may come back and look at Hanwha in the next game. It would likely be Kingham or Carpenter, as Tokyo Brandon said, against, we don't know who Doosan will put out there in the second game, but at some point this weekend, you're going to have some value on Hanwha. I think they're going to win. I'll leave it at this. I think Hanwha wins one of these 2 games this weekend. They're probably going to be underdogs in both. Do what you will with that. I think this team's undervalued, and Hanwha is a team I'd look to play on in the early going here.
You're muted, Dan.
Adam Trigger looking to play on Hanwha in this weekend's opening weekend set. We almost got through the whole first show without any technical difficulties. So apropos there in our best bet segment that I fumbled a bag. So let's swing it on over. Tokyo Brandon alluded to it near the top of the show, what he's eyeing for his best bet this weekend. Tokyo Brandon, what do you got for the folks?
Yeah, and you guys tune into our KBO shows every week. You'll be hearing me sing probably in every show, as I often do at home when I'm doing my lines. In any case, as I alluded to at the beginning of the show, this KT team, Adam did mention that they're losing a key player in their lineup. But in my opinion, they didn't win the championship with their lineup. They did fade. They did start to tail off at the end of the season due to lack of production, which did show us what they can kind of look like under duress. However, in the KBO, the bullpens, the quality, we touched on this in the season preview show when we were talking about bullpens, and Adam and I both agreed that this is between a 1A and a 2A level of competition. The bullpens are atrocious in the KBO. So if you have a good bullpen, you can really, really take advantage of that, and it can make up for a lot of deficiencies in the rest of your team. But not only does KT, in my opinion, have the best. I have my own numbers that I measure, and some of those include FIP and WHIP and XFIP and other numbers to come up with my own stats for this, because the information is a little bit limited. But according to my stats, I have KT having the best bullpen, and that's mixing ERA and FIP and WHIP and all those things. They're number one, and there are probably 3 bullpens in the KBO that I would trust, and the rest are just absolute garbage. So I think having the best bullpen in the league is good enough. I don't like Samsung's drop-off, and I don't like what I've seen in the preseason. Adam did say that Perella, they have a couple of good homegrown talents in the lineup. They were known last year as a slugging team, a team with a lot of power, but they couldn't hold it down in the bullpen. This year, I think their lineup is slipping a little, and I don't see why this KT Samsung line here is even money. I don't see that. I don't see it at all. To me, this should be like -130. So my best bet is on the KT Wiz here on the money line, and get it in quick, because I think this line is probably going to move to about -118, -120, -125 within the next 8 hours or so.
Well, Brandon, you sharing that you're going to be singing on every episode of the KBO show, I don't know if that hurts or helps our prospects moving forward here. But I guess time will tell. Just to recap, Adam looking to back the Hanwha Eagles this weekend. Brandon looking to back the KT Wiz. So that just about does it for us. Want to remind you, you can lock in both of these guys, grab their MLB packages through the World Series. Tokyo Brandon or Adam Trigger, find them on WagerTalk.com. We got a super early bird price going, $6.99 each. That will also include all of their KBO and Japanese baseball releases through the championships of those leagues as well. A major deal, just $6.99 each, your super early bird pricing here. So that does it for us on the first episode of the KBO show. For Adam Trigger, for Tokyo Brandon, and our producer Robert behind the scenes, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you Monday on the KBO show.
If you're a fan of our KBO show with Tokyo Brandon and Adam Trigger, we have a special offer to get you any of their KBO or Japanese baseball releases for free. For a limited time, you can lock in MLB through the World Series for Tokyo Brandon or Adam Trigger for the super early bird price of $6.99 each, and we will include any KBO or Japanese baseball releases through the championships, normally priced at an additional $4.99 per sport, absolutely free. To purchase all of these sports during this time frame, it would cost you over $1,800, but by locking yourself in early, we are dropping the cost all the way down to $6.99.